남자친구 있으세요?
Oh, sorry, I don't speak Korean.
와,
환영합니다, 고객님. 오늘은 1+1 할인합니다. Sorry, I don't speak Korean. 어떡해! Hi my darlings, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sydney from the travel blog IO Wander. I make videos about expat life in South Korea as well as other travel adventures, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. So in today's video, I'll be talking about what it was like to be an Asian expat living and teaching abroad in Seoul, South Korea. So through the years, South Korea has definitely gotten more multicultural, but it has a long way to go compared to like other countries in the world that are more diverse. So I feel like there are a ton of videos out there, coming from non-Asian expats sharing their experiences, but not as many videos, from other Asian foreigners. So today you'll be getting my perspective, so a Chinese American point of view. So let's get started. So right off the bat, I kid you not, every Korean and their mother assumed I was Korean or that I spoke Korean. It was like the biggest shock in the world once they found out that I was a foreigner, especially when I was hanging out with my Korean friends. And with my non-Asian expat friends, like anytime they busted out, speaking Korean, like the locals would be so amazed that they could speak the language. And for me, it was opposite. They would be so shocked when I started speaking English because, I guess they just weren't expecting it. And then like anytime I'm with a friend, like a non-Asian friend that would be able to speak Korean, like the locals will look at me and be like, hey, look at her, even she could speak Korean, like why can't you? It was almost as if, just because I'm Asian, the expectation is higher that, I should be able to speak Korean. I lived in Nawanggu, which was the more residential part of town. So, some locals weren't as exposed to the foreigner community compared to like other neighborhoods in Seoul. And I remember in my class, my student was like, Teacher Cindy, where are you from? And, I was like, oh, I'm from Chicago, I'm from the States. And the student would be like, Teacher, no way. You don't have a sharp nose. Where are you really from? And I don't even know like how I responded to that comment. But like some of my students, they were just dead on that I was from the Philippines or some other country where, like Asians spoke English. And I think to this day, some of my students just don't believe that I'm from America. And I think it was mostly like the younger kids because they just didn't realize, how like diverse like the America was. They didn't realize what a melting pot it was. So having an Asian face, I was able to blend in more. I didn't stick out like a sore thumb, so I didn't have to deal with like the staring as if you were some kind of like zoo animal. Like some of my foreigner friends, like the locals would literally be like,
Oh my gosh.
and you would like literally think they're about to like break their neck or something. It was usually like the ajishis or the ajumas, like the older Koreans. But yeah, so like being Asian, it had its perks, and I was able to like ninja around more. So one of the things that I found funny was that some of my Korean friends thought it was amusing that I actually knew how to use chopsticks. And I'd be like, I am Chinese after all. But I think they just thought, because I was from the States, I was used to using just forks and spoons. So I thought that was hilarious. And, just to let you guys in on a little secret, I like don't actually know how to hold chopsticks properly. Like I know how to use it, of course, I've been using it my whole life, but I don't like hold it the proper way. So having grown up with my Chinese heritage, I feel like it's the reason why the culture shock I experienced in South Korea wasn't as drastic. For example, like with the food, I was already familiar with a lot of the flavors, and with the customs, like some of them were similar to like Chinese culture, and even with the language, like some of the pronunciations were quite similar. And that's why I feel like compared to my other friends, like the waves of homesickness didn't occur as often. So once it was a known fact that I was an expat, my experiences were pretty similar to any foreigner living in Korea. So as far as first meetings go, when they initially find out that, you're a foreigner, there are usually two scenarios in my experiences. So either A, they're completely fascinated, it's like, wow, tell me all about your country, they're so curious and they could talk your ear off. Or B, it's like, oh, great foreigner and they like run away because they just don't know how to act or they're just super shy. So a quick story time. I joined a gym in Seoul and I remember like on my first day, they were like, oh, we're gonna get you set up with a personal trainer. So I'm in this room waiting and there's like a wall of all the staff members and I couldn't help but notice like on a hat like Korean men. So of course I was hopeful that my trainer was going to be like one of the cuties. But here comes like this lady walking up to me and she's like, hey, I'm gonna be your trainer. And I have to admit, I was definitely a little disappointed. She said that she was the only one that could speak English at the gym. But, you know, it all worked out at the end because she was truly amazing. So another thing is if you're an expat, you kind of like they cut you some slack as far as proper etiquette or mannerisms. So, you know, like for example, if you're at a faculty dinner, like you don't have so much pressure, like, oh my God, you don't want to mess up, you don't want to do the wrong thing at the dinner table or something, right? Because you do get a break because you're a foreigner, like they don't expect you to know like everything, like all their customs and whatnot. So I think that was nice because you got a little break and, you know, you kind of get let off the hook. So that was pretty cool. And then another thing is, of course, like all the like foreigners, we had the stereotype. They just thought we were all wild, reckless, and like very loose, if you get my drift. But yeah. And then also I thought it was really funny because they like thought it was so like they were so shocked every time like me and my friends were able to eat like raw garlic and they would make this whole big deal about it, like, oh, you actually like it, like it's not disgusting, you think it's good. Like they just found it shocking that we knew how to eat that. But yeah, so like all in all, I would say that Koreans are super like welcoming to like foreigners. They're super friendly and, you know, they are really helpful. Like they'll help you when you need it. So the big question of the day is, how on earth did I survive 2 years living in Korea without really speaking or understanding the language? So don't get me wrong, of course I knew like some survival Korean, like some phrases and sentences, although I could probably count them like on my 10 fingers, you know, but still like I feel like I was also able to like comprehend more than I can speak. Although I think some of my friends might beg to differ, but that's besides the point. And then also like towards the end of the second year, I started trying to learn how to read Hangul. So, you know, better late than never, right? Yeah, so like the main reason is because I lived in Seoul, right? So it's a big city, there's enough English or like locals that speak English or understand English. So, you know, it was easier to get by. And of course, I had my lifelines. So thanks to like my Korean friends or my expat friends, they were like a lifesaver. You know, sometimes I'd be calling and be like, hey, how do you say this? Or like, what does this mean? So I was probably like super annoying, but I am so thankful for like my great friends. And then there were also times of emergencies where no one was available, but there was like this Korean hotline number, like 1330. And I think it was mainly meant for like tourism, for like international travelers or local travelers or something. But I remember there was one time I was in a pinch and no one was available and I called them. I think some guy was like fixing my AC or something like that. And I had to call them to translate and they're like, lady, that's not really our job, but we'll make an exception. So they were super like helpful and super friendly, and all the times I've called them, the representatives were super nice. So just FYI. Yeah, so if I could go back in time, I definitely would have taken the time to like actually learn Korean, because, you know, it would have made my life easier. I probably would have been less annoying to my friends, and also I think, you know, it's a better way to like immerse yourself into the culture. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and let me know in the comments below what were your experiences as an expat in Korea or another country. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!